Hi, class. Today I'm going to read to you Chapter 6 in The Janitor's Son. Please click like, subscribe, and click the bell notification to be informed of future videos. This is Chapter 6, Reporting for Duty. People said Jack looked like his dad, and he hated it. They said it often enough that Jack guessed it was true. Sure. He could see that they both had straight brown hair parted near the middle and the same thick eyebrows that almost touched about the same deep-set brown eyes. Jack was a little taller than about half the other fifth grade kids. He guessed he was on track to end up about the same height as his dad, just under 6 feet, and he already had the same strong arms and broad shoulders. Even Jack's real name was the same, John Philip Rankin Jr. But the likeness went deeper than that, deeper than Jack liked to admit it, was more than the lines could buy, a strong chin or a straight nose, more than a certain smile or a way of walking or a pattern of speech. Like his dad, Jack was mostly quiet and thoughtful. He was happy to be on his own, but he could also be friendly and quick to smile. He wasn't shy, but when he spoke carefully. There was a steadiness about Jack most of the time, unless you got on his bad side. Jack didn't get mad easily. He neither did his dad. And neither did his dad. But when either of them did get mad, look out. And as Jack went to find his dad after school, he was ready for the worst. Jack stopped on the metal stairs leading down to the shop. The shop was next to the boiler room, so it was always cozy down there during the cold months. The main boiler was running now, and the roar of the burner made the stairs tremble beneath Jack's feet. The air coming up past him was loaded with different smells, workshop smells. The air was warm, but it didn't seem cozy. Not today. Jack set his face into a hard, who cares sort of look. He took a deep breath and started down the stairs. Halfway down, Jack let out a sigh of relief. The place was empty. The folding desk was still sitting in the middle of the gray concrete floor, right where he had left it earlier. Dim afternoon sunshine from the window fell on the far wall, made a small patch of light on the floor. The only other light came from the lamp on his dad's desk. Mr. Ackerby had told him to go to the shop after school, and here he was. Jack, though, it's not my fault if Mr. Big Shot Janitor is busy somewhere else. So Jack crossed the workshop to his dad's desk and sat down. Jack tipped back in the old swivel chair and slowly spun it around. As he did, he looked up at the bookshelves mounted on the wall behind the desk. He didn't remember seeing them before. A row of binders on the top shelf caught his eye. Each notebook was carefully labeled: plumbing log, roofing schedule, groundskeeping, boiler maintenance, supplies and equipment, purchasing, alarm and bell systems, fire control systems, electrical system. There were more than a dozen binders. The lower shelf was jammed with fat catalogs from suppliers, some of them twice as thick as the yellow pages. And for those of you who don't know, the yellow pages is an old school large book that has everybody's phone number in there uh, in your particular area. And the pages were actually yellow. So some people still get the yellow pages though. So I like the way that the author is describing this janitor's room because if you have ever been to a janitor's room at a school, then it is pretty much like the way that this author is describing. Okay, one catalog was labeled Lewis Brothers Power Equipment. Jack loved tools, and he was good at making things, fixing things. His dad had got him his own toolbox for Christmas when he was 7, and he'd been gradually filling it with tools, real ones, not kids' tools. Jack stood up to reach for the tool catalog when suddenly the room flooded with fluorescent light. A booming voice said, "You looking for something?" Jack turned around, startled, and the man halfway down the stairs saw his face. He grinned and said, "Hey, it's Jackie boy." Sorry about that, having some problems with my mouse. Okay. "Hey, it's Jackie boy. Look at the size of you. You must have picked up 2 inches since July. No wonder they sent you over to the high school this year." Jack smiled and said, "Hi, Lou. Um, I've got to talk to my dad." Lou chuckled as he came the rest of the way down to the shop. "Thought maybe you were some kid come here to check a book out of your dad's library." Lou Carswell was a tall, slender man with short cropped hair and stooped shoulders. He and his wife had come to Jack's house for Sunday suppers and summer barbecues plenty of times. Lou had been working at the high school almost as long as John Rankin. There was a poorly focused photo on his dad's dresser. 4 young guys in army uniforms. Jack knew one of them was his dad, and he was pretty sure one of them was Lou. He had never asked, but that's how it looked. So it sounds like Lou is also a janitor, and he's pretty good buddies with Jack's dad, which is John Rankin. Lou said, "If you're waiting for your dad, you got a long stretch ahead of you. He's up on 3 West in the science lab, fixing a motor in the ventilator. You'd best walk up there and find him." Jack said, "No, it's okay. I can't wait." I can wait." Lou shook his head and motioned toward the stairs with his thumb. "I'm not kidding. Jackie, he's probably got another 40 minutes of work on." That unit. Uh, Hold on just a second. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay, I think this is the right page here. Sometimes the pages flip on their own. Okay, that unit. So just pick up and get up there to room 336 right now. Go on. He'll be glad to see you. With the note from Mr. Ackerby weighing him down, Jack started the long hike to the 3rd floor, palms sweating, mouth dry. He trudged up the stairs like a convict headed for the gallows. So a convict is somebody who's gone to a jail or a prison, and the gallows is a word that they used time ago as a place that you would go to get your head cut off. So obviously he's not looking too forward to that trip. Jack could have found his way just by following his nose. He had noticed a strange electrical smell all over the school right after lunch. As he approached room 336, the sharp odor of burned wiring got stronger and stronger. Peeking in the doorway, Jack saw his dad bent over the ventilator by the windows, his left arm completely inside the casing. He was reaching for something: vent covers and spools of wire, nuts and bolts, pliers, wrenches, and wire clippers were spread out all over the floor and the nearest lab tables. Taking a deep breath, Jack walked in and said, "Hi, Dad." John Rankin turned his head. He smiled and said, "Hey, this is a surprise. Good timing, too." He straightened up and pulled a flashlight from his back pocket. "I dropped a nut down behind the new motor assembly, and I can't get my hand in there to pick it up. Thought I was going to have to go all the way down to the shop and get a magnet. Here, I'm going to shine the light down from over." And he was saying about a magnet because um, the nuts or bolts or whatever fell behind the unit would be drawn to the magnet so that he could easily pick it up. This side and you, see if your hand can fit behind there and get it. Jack thought, what makes him think that I want to get all covered with grease and dirt like he is? But Jack took a look down into the register and then leaned way over, threaded his hand in, and came out with the nut. Here. Great. That's going to save me some time. John Rankin straightened up and smiled at his son and tossed him a rag to wipe off his hand. Looking into Jack's face for the first time, he saw right away this wasn't a social visit. In a quieter voice, he said, "What's on your mind, Jack?" Jack looked at the floor and said, I got something. I got myself in some trouble, Dad." And he handed his father the note from Mr. Ackerby. John pulled a chair out from under a lab table and sat down. He took his reading glasses from his shirt pocket and perched them on the end of his nose. Then he tore open the envelope, unfolded the paper, and started to read. Jack watched his face. John Rankin read 2 lines and then looked up sharply at Jack, his dark eyebrows lifted in disbelief. "It wasn't you? You're the one who messed up the desk that's down in the shop?" Jack reddened, but he met his father's eyes with a sullen look and nodded. Oh, let's see. Hold on. His dad looked back to the note. It only took him another 10 seconds to finish it. He put the paper back in the envelope and laid it on the scarred black lab table. He took off his glasses and tucked them into his pocket. Then he turned his head and looked out the window. A brisk wind was pushing the fallen leaves into heaps along the fence around the football field. So it sounds like his dad's pretty disappointed in his son. John Rankin cleared his throat. "Hard to know what to make of this, son." There was a long pause as if he hoped Jack would offer an explanation. Jack kept silent. Then John said, "But I guess there's time." He taped the envelope on the lab table. According to this, he tapped the envelope on the lab table. According to this, seems like we've got 3 weeks to get to the bottom of it. John stood up and walked over to the ventilator. He looked in his toolbox and picked up a wrench, squinted at it to read the size, and then turned his back to Jack, both arms down inside the cabinet again. He said, "You know that door to the right of my desk down in the shop?" Jack said, "Sure." And he thought, "What does he think, I'm a dummy?" His dad continued, "Go inside and look on the shelves to the left. There's a can of special solvent called Off It. That's pretty good with the fresh stuff. And you'll need a roll of paper towels and some rubber gloves and a stiff bladed putty knife for the hardened gum. Toss your supplies in a plastic bucket to carry 'em around. Easier that way. And you'll need a trash bag. The buckets and the trash bags are behind the door to the right. After that folding desk is clean and back in the music room, you can move on to the tables and chairs in the library. I'll be checking your work, and I've got a feeling that Mr. Ackerby will too." John turned around and tossed the wrench back into the toolbox. The metallic clatter made Jack jump. His dad said, "Any questions?" Remember, Jack is supposed to be helping his dad to clean as a janitor would, since that's what Mr. Ackerby said for him to do as part of his punishment. "No." "Then get to it." John Rankin turned back to the broken ventilator, and Jack turned and headed back to the workshop for the third time today. Jack felt so relieved he practically skipped down the empty stairway. His dad hadn't even yelled at him. Maybe it was a sign, a good omen. Maybe his mom wouldn't ground him, and maybe Ackerby would lighten up and let him off the hook after a week or two. Who could say? Maybe Gum Patrol wasn't going to be so bad after all. Then Jack caught himself. What, am I nuts? Gum Patrol not so bad? Yeah, right. That was a very interesting chapter, chapter 6. So now at the end of this chapter, we see that Jack's father is pretty disappointed in his son, and Jack is not taking it so seriously. He thinks it's going to be an easy job for him to clean up like his dad does because he doesn't have respect for the work that his dad does. And so now he's questioning if it really is going to be easy or not. Well, you'll have to stay tuned for Chapter 7, Gum Patrol, next time on The Janitor's Son to find out. Please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. If you haven't already, subscribe and click the bell notification to be informed of future videos. Share the link on your social media with those adults who you know are struggling to read. Thank you for watching. See you next time, Lord willing. Bye.